So today we'll talk about the first project, that is ASP.NET, wherein we'll be setting up complete CI/CD for an ASP web application, ASP.NET web application. Don't worry about the web application, that will be created by me. I'll be sharing the web application projects with you guys. The focus area should be what is continuous integration, what is continuous deployment, and what is continuous delivery. That should be the focus area. Now, before we jump on and start talking about the project, we need to understand the very important concept, what exactly is continuous integration. Okay, so before I start talking about continuous integration, in Azure DevOps, there are two ways you can create pipelines, whether it's release or whether it's a build pipeline. So the one way is using YAML script, and the other way is using Classic. So we'll be doing both the ways, guys. But if you ask me which way you need to focus, so that will be YAML based. Why? Because YAML based follows pack methodology. What is pack? Is pipeline as a code. So basically your pipeline will be part of your Git repository, and once it is part of your Git repository, you can have all the benefits of a repo. What will be the benefit? Reusability, shareability, and you can easily share the code and you can reuse and create new pipelines with that code. That is what, if you're using pipeline as a code. And plus it can be part of your repository. Anyone can go and contribute to your pipeline as well. So yeah, so keeping that in mind, two focus area. One, when you're doing a build and release, we'll focus on YAML more, but we'll do Classic as well because there are projects around. You may see Classic pipeline they're using. Okay, so we need to have expertise on Classic as well. So we'll start with Classic. We'll start with basic first. Then later I'll teach you YAML basic. Then we'll jump on to, we'll do the exact same thing with YAML also. So whatever we do with Classic, the same thing will be done using YAML as well. Okay, just keep that in mind. And make sure if you're not practicing, make sure to practice things and keep yourself updated, because from now onwards, things will change at a very drastic pace. Okay, so keep that in mind. I've asked everyone to open Visual Studio to download Visual Studio. So Visual Studio Community Edition, you can use 2019 and 2022 is the latest one. Anything is okay. There's no problem. Okay. So before we jump on and start working on the project and start creating the first project, the first thing is we need to understand what exactly is continuous integration. Now, continuous integration or continuous build, whatever you call it, So what exactly is continuous integration? Can anyone help me with a basic meaning of continuous integration, or anyone working as a DevOps engineer and using continuous integration methodology? Anyone, guys? What is continuous integration or continuous build? Anyone wants to pitch in something? So continuous integration is basically, let's talk about that then. This is,
Isn't that isn't that
yeah,
like when you do iterations, steady build, the software is never complete, but you steadily make new features, add to new features to it over time.
perfect. Anyone else wants to add something to it? Okay, no problem. Let's go and look into continuous integration. Now think of this person as a developer. We can say development and deployment, integration, regularly checking your codes to the repo. Regularly checking. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Okay, let me talk about continuous integration in great details now. Think of a developer. Now, a developer, while be using any of these IDE tool, developer will be using any of the IDE tool. IDE is nothing but it's an integrated development toolkit like Visual Studio, Eclipse, Visual Studio Code. So if it's a .NET, then mostly Visual Studio. If Eclipse, mostly Java. Visual Studio Code can be used with Python, Golang, and many more. So think of any of this IDE tool a developer is using for building his application. So this is all done locally. Once the application is built, the developer will be committing locally. Let's just imagine it's a .NET application. You have used Visual Studio Toolkit, and using Visual Studio Toolkit, you have created your application. Then you have committed your application locally. So your application is there locally right now with your local system, like your local laptop or local desktop, whatever you're using. Now you have created a remote repository. So this remote repository could be anything: Azure Repos, GitHub, GitLab, anything. Okay. Now using this remote repository, you have pushed your local changes, the local changes which you had it over here. You have pushed your local changes to your remote repository. Okay, in my case, we'll be seeing Azure Repos. Once the changes are pushed into local repository, there is a Azure pipelines. So Azure got Azure pipeline section wherein you can create your build pipeline. The Azure pipeline got the build pipeline got triggered automatically. Okay. Once the build has triggered, there were 4 stages: build stage, test, release, deploy. Now in continuous integration, we'll focus on only 2 stages. When we say continuous integration, we'll focus on only build and the test stage. Release and deploy, this is part of continuous development and delivery, which we'll talk about later. For now, we'll focus on build and test. Now, what exactly is build? The first is building is merging the codes with your remote repos. That is something we did over here. That is the build stage. Compiling your source code. So .NET and Java and all these are compilation language. So building is nothing but it's compiling the source code, downloading the artifacts, sorry, not artifact, compiling the source code, downloading the dependencies, and at the end, creating a artifact package over here. That is what the build stage is all about. Once your build is completed, you will have your tests wherein you will be running your unit test cases, and you will be running any automated test cases if you have. And if you have integrated code coverage, then you'll be running a code coverage over here. If you have integrated static code analysis, then you will have your static code analysis will be running over here. And once everything is done, your build is done, your testing is done, then at the end, artifacts will be generated. The artifact is nothing but, guys, it's a output file. So for your build and test cases, what you have run. So for the build, there will be an artifact created. It's nothing but it's an output file. And if it's a Java application, mostly it will be a war or a jar file. If it's a .NET application, it will be mostly a DLL or a zip file. Okay. Python also is zip file. So it's artifact which will be created. It's nothing but it's output file which will be created, which can be later deployed. This is all, these all steps are known as continuous integration. So this is something will happen continuously. Then whenever a developer makes any changes and he push the changes to the remote repository, automatically a pipeline will trigger, and all this step will repeat again. Merging the code with remote repos, compiling your source code. So compiling is the very important step in your build, where your compilation of your source code happens. It basically also downloads all your dependency. If there's any external packages which you're using, it will go and download those dependencies for you. Post that, it will start running all your test cases. If you have any unit test cases, then it will get executed, and hence at the end it will publish your build artifact. Okay, so this artifact is nothing but it's an output file which will eventually will be deployed. So wherever you deploy it on a server, you deploy it on Azure web app, you deploy it on a Docker container, or wherever you want to deploy. So at the end, this zip file will get deployed. Docker deploying things artifact on a Docker container has a different way of doing. We need to have Docker file and things like that. So that is something we'll talk about that later. But using pipelines, if you want to deploy things on container, even that is possible. Just keep that in mind. But it's a different route which we need to take. That is something we'll discuss later. So this is what will happen in continuous integration, guys. So this is a continue. Why do we call as continuous integration? Because this is a continuous process. Every time a developer is making any changes, he'll make the changes to a local repo. And once he's done with the local testing, he'll push the changes to the remote repo. And using pipelines, your build will automatically run, your test cases will automatically run, and at the end, you will have your continuous integration steps taking place. This is all a continuous integration process. So when you get interview question, this is what you need to speak about, guys. A continuous integration, whenever there is a source code gets merged to the remote repository, there are build and test steps which gets executed, like compiling source code, downloading dependency packages, running test cases, running automated test cases, running code coverage, and if there's any static code analysis, then there's a static code analysis using SonarQube. Post that artifact gets published. Okay, this is continuous integration for you all. Anyone any questions on this continuous integration part? There's no question, then I'll go and move on and we'll start with this part. So consider me as a developer. I'm using Visual Studio tool and I'll be creating my first application .NET and I'll be pushing the changes to my local Git. Then after I'll be pushing it to Azure repos. Okay, any version is fine, Prashant. Visual Studio 2022, 2019. I'll be using 2019. If you want to follow my path, you can download 2019 Community Edition. Okay, so let's go and just let's create the first project. So before I go on create the first project, guys, I need to have a repository created, a remote repository as I spoke about over here. We need to have this repository created. So let's go and create that repository first. So I'll go in repos. I'll click new repository. I'll name it as Azure. Name it as Valaxy. I think we already have a repository. Valaxy DevSecOps. Or do you want me to create a new one? Okay, let's create a new one. Let's name it as Valaxy Web App. Okay, so this is the new repository which we have created. Now I'll just quickly go and create few branches based on the branching merging strategy which we have discussed yesterday. So I got a develop branch and I got a release branch. Okay, we'll stick with two. I'll set this develop branch as my default branch, guys. We all know the reason why default branch is develop branch. Anyone has any confusion why it is default, then please do let me know. And I'll just simply go and clone this on my local. I can do a clone directly from the bash shell. I can clone it directly to my Visual Studio. It's up to you how you want to clone. For me, I'll just stick with the basic. I'll clone it using bash. This is all we have done earlier. So if anyone has any confusion with all these steps, please do let me know. So that's why I've done Git first before starting any project. Okay, this is done. Yeah, questions? Okay. So guys, I have it cloned. If you see, we got this Valaxy web app got cloned on my local. Let me just discard this PPT for now. Okay, now the second thing is I'll go and open Visual Studio tool. So I got Visual Studio 2019 opened over here. And the first thing I'll do is I'll just go and create a new project. Over here, we'll be looking for ASP.NET Core Web App. This is C#. This is something you'll be looking for. So you just have to search at the top. Just look for ASP.NET Core. So the first one which you see a project template. So this is your project template. Basically, if we what is the difference between ASP.NET Legacy and ASP.NET Web Application? Anyone has any idea? So if not, then ASP.NET Legacy application are not platform independent. So basically, if you're using a legacy.NET application that works only on Windows, secondly, it will require IIS as a web server. Okay, these are the prerequisite if you want to use a legacy application. Wherein this ASP.NET Core Web App, these are platform independent. That means it can work on Linux as well, Windows and Mac OS. And top of it, if you want to use any other web server such as Nginx, even that is possible. Okay, so this is kind of a new platform which was developed by Microsoft. So even Microsoft knows it. If they stick with their legacy one, they will be thrown out of the market any given point of time. So they have come up with this new framework, that's ASP.NET Core Web. So which is platform independent. If you see, read through this at the bottom, it shows it works on Linux, Mac OS, Windows, and it can work on cloud. You can deploy it on cloud. You can use this as a microservice application. You can deploy it on Docker containers. You can deploy it on Kubernetes pods also. Okay, that is what eventually we'll do end up doing. Whatever application we are creating right now, these application will be deployed at multiple sources. The first will deploy it on Azure Web App. The second will deploy it on Docker container. The third will deploy it on Kubernetes pods. So this is a microservice example which I'm giving right now to you. Okay, so I'll be using the default template. So I'll stick with this template. I'll name this as Valaxy DevSecOps app, something like this. And this location, I'll keep it to my repository which we just cloned on my desktop. So this was the repository where I've cloned it. Next, target framework, there is 3.1 and 5.0. So we'll stick with 3.1 for now, and rest everything else keep it as it is and create. So this is my first ASP.NET Web Core application which we are creating right now. So a project will be created. So basically a project will have a solution file. So Visual Studio solution file, and all your default templates will be created inside that project. You don't need to learn how an application is created, how you work with the application and things like that. No, you don't need to know that, guys. The only things you know, how do you build that application? That is the thing which you should know. Okay, you don't need to go and create a project by yourself. You don't need to edit the project by yourself. You do need to understand what are the templates they're using. But yeah, if you have the major thing you should know is how a ASP.NET application gets built, one thing. Second, if you're working with Java, then how a Java application gets built. If you're working with any other framework, you just need to know how the application gets built. That's it, nothing else. Okay, so that's why I always say you don't need to be a developer for being a DevOps engineer. But if you have a better understanding, that will eventually help you. Okay. Now, once you have your project created, you can go to Solution Explorer. Your Explorer will be visible from the View section. There is an option of Solution Explorer. Just click over here. These are the default templates which you will find it over here. So if I want to give you a quick walkthrough, this is a place where all the dependency external packages will come in. Your properties, all your static pages and your dynamic pages will come over here. Your HTML pages, like your home screen page, will come over here. All your application settings and all your startup and program.css files will come over here, in case if you're doing something. Now this is your home page, so I'll just write it, welcome to DevSecOps course. Did you install the plugins which I've asked for, Victoria? There were 3 plugins: ASP.NET, Cloud, and .NET. If you have not installed, go to installer again. Then ASP.NET code should be visible. Just go to your installer and go to modify. These are the 3 plugins. Now if you see, this plugin will give you build web application using ASP.NET Core. If this plugin is missing, you will not have ASP.NET Core. As simple as that. So this plugin, Azure Development, and .NET Desktop Development, these are the 3 plugins I want you guys to download and keep it. Okay. Okay, no problem. We'll see it later, Victoria, or else I'll be sharing this project with you guys. Okay, don't worry. Okay, once I'm done with the changes, I'll simply go and do a local build. So what did I say? The developer will do the local build and test if its application is working or not. So this is the build which we'll do. I've made some changes. I saved it. I'm running my project locally right now to see if everything is looking good. So basically what will happen with this build, it will go in a debug mode and it will try to do a debugging. Now after the debug, it has successfully created a build and a new DLL file got created. Okay. Now if you want to run this project locally, you can do it by clicking on this IIS Express. So this is nothing but it will open your application in your local browser. So it will run on local host. So this will give you a quick glance how your application is looking right now. So let's wait while the thing is coming up. It will open my default browser, that is Microsoft Edge, and it will like run the application locally. Let's wait while the application is running. So before we push this application to my local remote repository, we are testing it locally if everything is looking good. Because when down the line, if I deploy this application later in the stage, then you should know what this application was all about. So that's why I'm just giving you a glimpse. It's taking time depending upon we are running it for the very first time. That's why I can have this on. See this. Welcome to DevSecOps Valaxy. This is your home screen. This is a privacy page, and it's again back to home screen. Welcome to DevSecOps course. This is your application. It's up over here also. As soon as I close this window, it will go out of the debug mode and it will exit out automatically. Okay, so that was your application, guys. Now if you see at the top, there is an option of git changes. So basically you can manage your complete git repository from here also. Now if you see, there are 102 changes because we just added our application inside this git repository. There are 102 changes. At the top there is a window which you can use it for writing your commit message. So like something like initial commit. Now at the top, if you see, there are downward arrow and there are upward arrow and this sync sign. So this is for git fetch, this is for git pull, this is for git push, this is sync. Sync is basically it will pull your changes first, then it will push your changes. These are the tabs which you can use it. This is there in 2019. In 2022 you have similar option but in a different way. Okay, the interface will differ a bit if you're using 2022. And at the top, you're pointing it to a develop branch right now. So you are at the develop branch. If you want to know what are the remote branches, you can go to the remote branches. And if you want to switch to any of the branches, just right click and do a checkout and you go to that branch. Okay, this is how you will be working. In reality, developers are using all these IDE tool Git. They don't go to bash mostly. Okay, now if you want to commit, we can simply do a commit all. So this is a local commit which I did. So basically we did this local commit right now. We are over here right now. Okay, once the local commit is done, you can see one outgoing change. So there's one change to push, and you can see the same information at the down bottom. There's one outgoing change, there's zero commit, so there's nothing to commit right now. This is your repository, Valaxy web app, and this is the branch you are in right now. If you want to change the branch, you can do the same thing. So whatever we were doing from the top, you can do it from the bottom also. Okay, now if you want to view your commit, this is the commit you have, one commit. Click on one commit, you can see one commit over here. This is the commit what you have right now. As soon as you click on one commit. Now, if you want to push your changes, you can come back. You can push it from here also. There's an option of push, or you can go back to your Git changes and there's an option to push. Just click on this button. As soon as you push, your changes will be merged. See here, writing object successfully pushed here to origin develop. Now, if I come back over here, if I refresh this, do you see your application is right over here? This is your application. This became part of your remote repository. Now, if you see, we are right now at this stage. We pushed our changes to Azure repos. Now, there's no pipeline where we haven't created any pipeline as such. So we'll have to go and create the first pipeline, our first pipeline. So as I said, when you create a pipeline, there are two ways you can create pipeline: classic and YAML. So initially we'll focus on classic based. Later I'll teach you how do we create YAML pipelines. Okay. So come down. There is a section in pipelines, and this is the pipeline section where your build pipelines will be created. So this is the first pipeline which we are creating. Okay. In order to your pipeline to work, remember guys, I've asked everyone to fill in the form. Hopefully everyone has filled that form and you have got confirmation from Microsoft. If not, you may not be able to run your build pipelines. Just keep that in mind. You will end up getting error. Okay. So let's go and create the first pipeline. Okay. Now, where is your code? It is asking for where is your code. If you select any of this option at the top, it will eventually take you to create a YAML based pipeline. If you select any of the above option, it will go and create YAML based build pipeline. Now you will ask me, how do we create classic based? Then if you see at the bottom, this one liner, use this classic editor to create a pipeline without YAML. Now the question arises, if there are two ways, then why this classic is so hidden? The reason is even Microsoft don't want you to create classic based pipelines. They want you to stick with YAML. YAML has more features, more functionalities, more things to do, guys. Hence, even Microsoft is telling that please go and create YAML based pipeline, not classic. But there are projects around the world, they are still using classic. Hence, this classic based is not obsolete yet. But yeah, sooner or later you may see classic getting obsolete. But as if now it is there, so we'll learn that also. So if you want to create a classic one, you just click on this classic editor. Now where exactly your code is? Your code is in Azure repos. Okay, if it is there in some other repository, you can go and use that also from here. Okay, what is the name of your repository? Valaxy web app. Okay, where is your code? In your develop branch right now. So continue. So again, it is giving you again highlighting whether you want to create a YAML based. See, again it is highlighting, but we'll stick with this option, the templates which we are getting right now. Now it's a .NET application, ASP.NET Core app. Now there are so many ASP.NET, so automatically your pipeline is smart enough. It is detecting that this is a ASP.NET application. Hence, it is giving you templates based on ASP.NET. See, at the top, you're getting all the templates based on ASP.NET. At the bottom, you can get others, but for now, starting, it is giving you ASP.NET templates. Now, this is .NET Desktop. This is more a legacy application. So this is something we can't use it. The second one is build and test ASP.NET web application. This is the one which we can use it. The third one is Azure Web App for ASP.NET. So this is also you can use it, but we'll stick with this one because we are just doing a build right now. I don't want to deploy it. So I'll just stick with this ASP.NET build and test. Click on apply. As soon as you apply, this is the screen what you see. Let me change this name first. Let's name it as DevSecOps app build. Okay. Now this is what you see. Okay. Your pipeline. In your task, you got your pipeline. This is the name of your pipeline. Agent pool. Okay, I'll have a separate session on once I'm done with this build pipeline and release pipeline. We'll have a separate session wherein we'll talk about agent pool. For now, just think of agent pool as a server wherein all your tasks will get executed. Okay, for building a .NET application, what all things you need? You need a MS build or a VS build. You need to have a .NET framework wherein you will execute your application build and things like that. Where exactly this task will be executed? This Azure DevOps which I'm using, this is a cloud-based DevOps which I'm using right now. I'm not using any of my server over here. So where this task, all these tasks, what you see, where this will get executed? So this will get executed on this agent, and this is a Microsoft hosted agent. So that's why I've asked you to fill in the form so that you get access to this agent. Okay. So what exactly is Microsoft Access, Microsoft Agent Pool, and what is self-hosted agent pool? This is all we'll discuss in great details when we set up our own agent pool. So that is something we'll do later. Once we're done with this continuous integration and continuous deployment of Classic, then we'll see what is agent pool. Okay, that is something we'll do later, guys. Okay. For now, just keep in mind, this is nothing but a server getting allocated to you where all your build task is getting executed. Okay, what are the build tasks? These are the tasks which is given over here. These are the tasks which is getting executed. Okay, now path to solution. So this is the solution file basically which is getting called in your build pipeline. From where you're getting the solution file, the project which you created, the project just now which you have created, it has a solution file. So basically your project is there inside this solution file. So that is the solution file which is getting called over here. Now what exactly this parameter is, let's understand this first. In Linux, if you guys remember, we spoke about relative path and we spoke about absolute path. Correct? This is more an example of relative path, guys. So let me break this thing into two categories. So you see something like this. So I think this portion will be very known to people. This is nothing but this is a wildcard character. Wildcard. So basically what it does, it is matching anything ending with .sln and it will get you the file. If you have anything like for example abc.sln, it will go and match it. If you have anything xyz.sln, it will go and match it henceforth. So basically it is looking for anything ending with .sln, it will go and match it. SLN stands for solution. So over here, if you see in your repository, we got a solution file. At the beginning, we got something Valaxy underscore DevSecOps underscore app. So it will go and look for this file, basically. Okay. Now this is wildcard entry. Now this is what? What is 2-star? 2-star is basically is checking the folder levels. Now, what do I mean by folder levels? It is checking the folder levels. Now what does this mean? Now just imagine, let's go to my local. Just imagine you're running a build pipeline and you don't know your build where exactly the solution file is. Okay, so what that 2-star will do, it will start checking from the top level. So it will check over here, do we have the solution file? No. Then it will go inside the git folder. It will look for, do we have a solution file? No. Then it will go inside each and every folder and look for that file. And eventually it will come to this folder and it will look for the solution file, and it found the solution file over here. So that is what this line is doing, looking at the folder level, and at the folder level it is looking for the solution file. This is called relative pathing. This is very much used in shell scriptings, but if you want to have an absolute path or something like that, you can click over here, you can select from your repository, and you can go and select your solution file from here. You can do this way. Now this is called absolute pathing, wherein you have given from the source to the extreme end where the file is. But if you do this way, it has some disadvantage. This is like hard coding. And when you do hard coding, you cannot reuse your pipeline task. If you want to create a new pipeline using the same task, then you cannot do it because you have hard coded things. Okay, so this is not the right way. In DevOps, we always think from reusable perspective. We always say that we need to reuse something. We need to reuse for later. You can reuse in other projects also. So always keep that in mind whenever you're creating build or release pipeline, or even if you're writing infra as a code templates or pipeline as a code template, whatever you're doing, you need to keep in mind reusability. If you hard code anything, nothing will happen. Okay, now there is artifact name. So all this basically, I'll talk about this artifact name later. For now, this is what your package config agent is all about. Now this is pointing to your Valaxy web app, and my files are at my develop branch. This is pointing to your repository. This is again inheriting the same thing. Whatever I've discussed over here is basically the same thing. Now these are the steps to build your ASP.NET application. Now what exactly is this step right now? So whenever you work with a .NET application, you will need a external, you will be using external packages. So all these .NET packages are kept on an external app called NuGet. NuGet is nothing but it's a package manager, guys. NuGet is an external third-party tool. It's an open source tool. Basically, this is used for package management. Now, whenever a developer is working with ASP.NET, they will mostly connect to NuGet for downloading any external ASP.NET packages. And your ASP.NET application will not get built without NuGet. I'll talk about package management in a great details later when we talk about artifacts, Azure artifacts. So at that time I'll explain you NuGet again. But if you want to build a .NET application, you will need NuGet. Without NuGet, you cannot build it. Same goes with Java. If you want to build a Java application, you will either need Maven, End, or Gradle. So those are package management toolkit. If you want to have Python, then there's a package manager called pip. Okay. If you want to build Angular or any other related application, then there is a package manager called npm. So every application will have some sort of package manager, wherein so this is nothing but it's a cloud platform wherein all the external packages are kept. So you just connect to the cloud platform, download the external package. For this application, we have not used any packages, guys. But yeah, in reality, if you talk of, because I'm trying to depict a real world scenario over here. So in reality, you will need NuGet if you want to build a .NET application. Without NuGet, you will not be able to connect to your external package source. Just keep that in mind. Hence, you're seeing this NuGet installer task over here. So this is the latest NuGet which is getting downloaded. Then NuGet restore is basically what it will go and restore your application. It will look for any external dependency and it will go and download those dependencies for you. Okay. Now where exactly this installer and everything is getting installed? So this is the installer command, guys. So basically your NuGet 4.4.1 is getting installed. This is getting installed on your agent pool over here. So what did I say? Your build pipeline will connect to this agent pool. All these tasks, whatever task you see, this is getting executed over here on this. Okay. Then the NuGet restore, it will look for your solution file and it will, so basically this is your solution file, guys. This is your solution file. It will look for if there's any external dependency. So if you see, we don't have any external dependency right now, and it will go and download those, restore those dependency for you. Once this is done, you have your build step. This is where your build is happening. This is where your compilation will happen. And these are the arguments. These are the arguments. Let me just give you a walkthrough what exactly these arguments are. These are the arguments which we need to, which will get executed. So these are external parameters. What is there with your build pipeline? Now the first parameter is deploy on build. Do you want to deploy on build? True. Creating a package. So yeah, we need to create a final package so that we can deploy it. So this is where your artifact will be created. Package assigning as a single file, true. Skip invalid configuration, true. Package location, where this location will be. So this is something build.artifact staging directory. What exactly is this? This is something we'll talk about in a bit. But these are predefined parameters. These are predefined parameters. So if you want to know what exactly this build.artifact staging directory is, so where exactly, so this is the place where your package package is located. Why at this place? The reason is simple. All this task is getting executed on this agent pool. And frankly speaking, we don't have access to this agent. We don't have access to this agent. This is a Microsoft created servers, and the lifetime of this server is only limited to the run. So whenever you execute this pipeline, and whether your pipeline is successful, whether your pipeline is failed, the lifetime is only limited to the pipeline run. After that, that server will get destroyed automatically. So how do I access my artifact? The artifact is getting created on the server, correct? How do I access it? So by placing your artifact into this location. Now what exactly this location is, if you want to know more about this, let's go back to predefined variables. So this is the location wherein you have all your sort, not predefined parameters, guys, predefined variables. This is the place. These are Microsoft variables, guys. Microsoft has created and given these variables to you for you to use it. Now, if you see build artifact staging directory, what is this? A local path on the agent where any artifacts are copied to before being pushed to your destination. So this is the path on your agent pool where your artifacts are copied before it gets pushed to your destination. I'm sharing this link. We'll be using this link a lot. Keep this link as a bookmark because we'll be using a lot of predefined variables, not just this one. Okay. So if you have any confusion, go back to your predefined variables section and see what exactly this is. So basically what is happening, it is creating this package and that package is getting kept at this location. How do you access this location? I'll talk about that later, but the package is getting kept at this location. Okay, these are the parameters required if you want to build a .NET application. Just keep that in mind. From where did I get all this parameter? This is all the .NET developers will be aware if you want to know. So there is an option of MS build properties. These are all build properties, guys. So this is a Microsoft documentation. You can see all the properties over here which we have used it. Okay, deploy and build and all this it's given over here. So these are all this developers will be aware and they will give you these properties. Don't worry. Okay, now this is building your solution again. So from where exactly the solution they are getting? So do you see this link? So basically this link is over here. This link is over here. So whatever you have defined over here, that is getting reflected over here. Okay, that's why this is grayed out. If I just break this link, then whatever is there over here, it doesn't matter what's there in your build solution. So it's okay to keep this link so that you will have only one location to make changes and make amendments. Okay, just keep that in mind. Now where exactly this package will be kept, that is something we'll talk about later. That's it. So this is your build part. NuGet installer, NuGet restore. This is where your build is happening. Testing. You don't have a test cases right now. We haven't created any unit test cases. This is something we'll see later. So I'll just right click and remove this task. And if you don't have a test case, there's nothing to publish. So I'll just remove this also. Last but not the least, we got a build artifact task. After your build pipeline, this publish task, basically what it will do, it will publish your artifact from this location. Again, it's what this location is, build artifact staging directory, where your task is getting, your artifact is getting copied. And from this location, I'm keeping my files, my packages in my drop location. Now, what is this drop location? Now, this is just a naming. Drop is just a naming, guys. So you have seen this drop over here also. So this is nothing but it's a folder which gets created on cloud where your packages will be downloaded. So basically your artifact will be downloaded and this is the location where which your release pipeline can access. First, this is the location which you can access. So by going inside this location, drop location, you'll know what exactly got created. So this is the only place which we will have access to. Okay, so whenever you're using Azure Pipelines agent pool, then we have to keep a artifact in drop location. Now drop is a naming convention. You can use whatever name you want. If I want to use ABC or XYZ, whatever names I want, I can use it. But drop, this is the jargon, is very much known in Azure DevOps world. Now what is drop location? It's nothing but it's your artifact where the artifact is downloaded. And this is the only location which we will have access to. Just keep that in mind. If you're using Azure Pipelines agent pool, if you're using your own agent pool, that's a different story. That is something we'll talk about later. So in your publish artifact task, if you see, the location is drop. Now if you want to use some file share, if your company has your file share, like they don't want your artifact to go on cloud or anything as such, and they want to keep it in their own file share path. So yeah, you can even use a file share path over here if you have a file share server. In my case, I don't have a file share server, but if I want, I can go to my storage account. Remember file share sessions, guys? If I create a file share, I can give that location after that if you want to do it, or else I'll stick with Azure pipelines and keep things in drop location. Okay, that's it. I'll just save this. My first build pipeline is ready. If I want to run the build, I can. For now, I'll just run it manual. Tomorrow I'll show you continuous integration methodology. For now, I'll stick with manual and we'll see if my pipelines are running. There are multiple other things also. That is something we'll talk about. Now, if you see this, my pipelines are running right now. If I go to my this is where the logs will be visible. So basically we are waiting for an agent to get assigned. Now, if you see this agent machine name got assigned, and if you see this, I got this Windows machine got assigned to myself. 2019 got assigned and all my task is running right now. So if you see the NuGet installer task is running, this is the main task NuGet restore which is running right now. It is connecting to the external sources and downloading the packages. If you go through the logs, you can see it has connected to api.nuget.org and got the required packages. There was no packages, guys, basically. So still it went ahead and checked. This is the place where your build is happening. Now, if your build was successful, now if you come down, there was zero warning, zero error, and the build was successful. Now, if you see, there's a zip file got created and the zip file got placed in some location. The location is something this. This location is nothing but your build.artifact staging directory. Ending with A, this is artifact staging directory. Again, repeating artifact staging directory. Now, if you go to your publish artifact, see from this A, this artifact staging directory, the file was placed into your drop location. Where this drop location is exactly, if I go to pipelines, this build pipeline, this is my first run. Do you see the number? This is your release number 2023021.1. What exactly this is? This is nothing but today's date, 21st of March 2023. .1 is this is the first release of today. This was manually triggered by Mela DevOps. From which branch it was triggered? Develop branch. What is the latest commit ID? This is the commit ID. If I go inside this, again you can see your repository information over here. You can see what all things were committed on which the build has run, the date, and the total time it took to run, related work items. This is where your drop location is. See the drop location. Now, do you see the zip file got created? This zip file is basically your application, guys. If I go ahead and deploy the zip file, you will have your application deployed. This is your final artifact which got created. An output file which can be later deployed. Consume, what all files it consumes for building this application. So this is basically the commit ID it is showing over here. Test and coverage, there's no test cases. As I was saying, there was no test, so there's nothing over here. Jobs, this is where your agent has executed your job. When you click over here, you can see all the logs. The NuGet got installed over here. This is the place the NuGet got restored. Your build was completed. Your artifacts was published. These were the 4 tasks which we had. Along with, if you see the checkout is nothing but whatever git command, it is adding the origin, git remote add. This is something we have seen it. It is adding a config auto, creating a new branch, cloning the new branch, and putting all the files in the new branch, then switching to the new branch. This is all happening on the agent pool. The agent will require your source code, correct? So this is the checkout. It is copying your source code. Basically, these files are getting copied. These files are getting copied on your agent pool. Okay, what is your agent pool? This is the agent pool. This is Windows 2019, Windows 20. This is the machine name. This is the administrator. This is the current image version which is getting built right now. These are the tasks what we have it. So reading through the logs is very important, guys, if you want to be a successful DevOps engineer. So I'll stop over here. I'll be sharing this application today itself. While sharing this zip file. So I'll be sharing as a zip file. Okay, I'll be sharing with Valaxy administrators. They will upload it onto the portal. So this is a zip file. I'll be uploading it for you guys. Go ahead
So
and create your, yeah.
how we can import this file in the portal?
Yeah. You can just download and import the files from the portal. And once you
No,
download,
means
just go
how?
and you have to log into the portal.
Okay, means is there any means option to just import and then we can just select the project and all this thing and import like that?
Yeah. What you have to do, you
Okay.
just need to extract it. When you extract it, this is the file which gets open. Just make sure create a Git repository. And when you're creating your own Git repository, make sure this .git file deleted, guys. This is my .git file. If you keep this .git file, when you try to push it, it will try to push changes to my repository, which it will not permit. You'll get error. So whenever you're using my project, if you're creating your own project, there's no issue, guys. If you're using my project, then make sure to delete this .git file. Okay, keep that in mind. Or else, when I'll create a zip, I'll just remove this .git file for you guys to avoid confusion. I'll just remove this and I'll just zip it so that there's no confusion. Okay, that's it for me. I want you guys to practice this. Tomorrow we'll talk more about continuous integration. I'll show you the different more ways of setting up auto triggers. What is path filtration, branch filtration, schedule, and many things we'll talk about more about continuous integration. So make sure this part is at least some till here you guys are able to at least run a very simple basic build pipeline using classic method. Okay, that's it for me. If anyone has any questions, please do let me know. Or else,
Quick question
yeah,
about the drop folder. Can you hear me?
yeah, I'm listening.
So the drop folder, you said it's located on the pipelines and therefore in the cloud, right?
Hmm.
How long is that retained for? Or another way to ask this question is, if you for some reason delete the build, what happens? Can you still recover artifacts in the drop folder?
Okay, by default, this folder is retained only for 30 days. This particular build is only
Mhm.
retained for 30 days. You can extend this days to maximum. You can keep it for 365 days, but that long you will not require this build. The reason is, if you want to do this build again, you can simply run the build pipeline again, and it will take the commit and it will run the build for you, and it will create a new artifact for you. It's the exact same thing. So yeah, answering to your question, by default it is 30 days, maximum 365 days. If you're going for the maximum 365 days, there is a storage cost which will be applicable. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
keep that in mind. Okay, so make sure to practice this, guys, and if there's any questions, any doubt, you can let me know, or else we can wind up the call.
Sorry, I
Okay,
had another question. Sorry.
tell me.
So after the build gets created, you do have the drop folder, right? It creates the drop folder, it puts the contents in the drop folder. So does
Correct.
that, and then the agent gets destroyed, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that means when the agent gets destroyed, the system artifact directory variable that also gets destroyed as well.
Yes.
Okay,
So that artifact, the active artifact gets destroyed, and from there, before destroying, we push it to the drop location, and drop location is a separate cloud location where your artifact gets created. So that's why we have access to that storage location. So basically we don't have access to the agent pool, but we have access to the storage location.
Nice. Okay. Thank you.
No problem, guys. Thank you very much. Let's meet up tomorrow and let's continue this interesting topic. Bye bye.